is what's your best / personal favorite revision method and why? So if we just kind of go round, we can answer that directly, or as I say, if there's any advice that you were hoping would come out in a question you don't feel has, take the opportunity to say it. So kind of wrap up for the best advice summary of our revision. So Bethan, we haven't been to you for a short while. Could you kind of give us your personal favorites in terms of revision advice?
Yeah, so I mean, my favorite, I talked to Paul about this a bit. I love a mind map. I find them really useful for my revision, just either to fill in gaps in my knowledge or just get like a good foundation. Find them really useful. And I feel like it's engaging your brain and breaking it down into smaller chunks, making it all fit. So that I find really useful. And I was going to say one thing that I wish I'd realised a bit sooner was for your subjects, find a way that you enjoy gaining the information. So I know that for English, sometimes reading the text didn't feel like enough for me. I didn't feel like I was getting as much out of it as I wanted to. So I found that, you know, watching the film version of Romeo and Juliet, for example, gave me a really good like knowledge of what it was about, and then I could go back in for those specific information points. So find something that you enjoy to get that really good knowledge, but it's still going to get you information, basically.
Yeah, that's excellent. Cool. Don't just watch the film though. You have to still do. You have to do the research as well in the book.
Yeah, read the book as well, obviously. But
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
have time as an
There'll be
extra,
students that say, no, Bethan said I can just watch the film.
yeah, no, don't
No,
just watch the
joking.
films.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks. That's a really good roundup. And mind maps, yeah, we hadn't touched upon those. They're an excellent tool. Similar, you know, they might be an alternative either for cue cards or for certain types of notes. Well, go hand in hand with certain types of note taking. So that's a really good shout. And much like cue cards, I think mind maps, big part of the benefit is the process. You know, at the end you have the mind map with your topics visually set out, which might be exactly how your head works and your mind works, but actually in getting to that stage and having the mind map laid out, you've obviously gone away and done a very fun, you know, decent level of research and learning to get what you've got down on the mind map. So it's the process as well as what you're left with in the mind map and cue cards, if people prefer cue cards, that I think is really excellent. Jaden, can we come to you in terms of your wrap up advice? Anything you feel is not been said, or that just you want to give a personal favourite or most effective way of revising?
Yeah, so I think because a lot of my content that I'm learning at the moment is very much memory based, I think there's two steps to learning in general, and this depends very much on the subject. I think the number one thing to do is to understand what you're learning. So for this, I normally just watch YouTube videos, which normally include some sort of biology, and that way I can just rewind and watch again anything that I'm struggling on. And then after this, I'd go through the process of making these flashcards on either Quizlet or Anki, or even on just paper, and then I would just test myself frequently over a certain amount of time, and I would just do this until I actually memorize all of the information so that I can just recall it when someone asks me. I think this depends, especially on what you're doing.
Good shout. And another couple of good tools there that people can have a look into for those methods. Jeremy, if we could come to you, is there any advice that you don't feel we've given out yet, or that you would include in kind of a wrap up for thinking about GCSE preparation, revision tools and techniques?
Well, we have discussed it, and it's not particularly sexy, but I think the best way to revise maths, at least, is doing past paper questions. And if they're quick, so let's say the easier questions at the start of a paper, I would probably do 5 of those and then mark them in one go. But actually doing and marking individual questions as you go through the paper with the harder questions. So if it takes you 5 minutes to do a question, then go back over it straight away to see what you did wrong. That's what I found to be the most useful when I was revising maths, and from what I see with my most successful students, I think that's still the case today.
Fantastic. Yeah. That has come up a number of times from a number of people. It sounds like a really important piece of advice that you know, if you're approaching GCSEs, you should make sure as part of your thinking, part of your approach and plan for tackling GCSEs. Matthew, have you had time to think of some roundup tips or anything we've not covered?
Yeah, I mean, it's very specific to English really, but I think definitely rereading set texts and not leaving it till too late. Particularly if you're studying a book like To Kill a Mockingbird, or a book that's a bit weightier, that's going to take longer to read. So rereading and maybe even supplementing that with an audiobook, which can be really useful, or like Bethan was saying, watching the film can be really good for sort of putting you in the position of like the writer, or when the book's set, the context. But yeah, definitely planning ahead for that and not leaving it until just before the exam. That's
a really good shout. And that I even do it now when I'm reading kind of a business or a productivity book. I'll read it, the whole book, and then I'll listen to it on Audible, because I find I'm paying a different kind of attention to it having read it than when someone's reading it back to me. And again, as I said earlier, that's just how I found I learn. I need several repetitions of something before it sticks. So however you can get those are another great couple of tools and really excellent advice. And interact with the content, as you said earlier. Don't be passive about your learning, be active about it. Make notes, write things down that you didn't understand from class, go away and find them out, or go and ask the teacher after class. Do what everybody said there in terms of making sure you're tackling not just the things that you're getting on well with and practicing those, but the areas that are perhaps a weakness that you need to get into and make better before you get to your GCSEs. Little and often has come up plenty of times. Breaking the don't look at it as a mountain, break it down into steps. You're just taking one step at a time, motivating yourself and making sure you don't procrastinate.